Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming for a meeting of the Cabinet of Portsmouth City Council. If we could just run around the table just to say who is here. Tristan, if you can start at the far right.
Tristan Samuels, Director of Regeneration.
Kieran Laven, Planning Solicitor.
Sim Manley, City Development Manager.
Chris Ward, Director of Finance.
Joe Moore-Smith, Democratic Services.
Steve Pitt, Deputy Leader, Cabinet Member for Culture and City Development.
Gerald Van Jackson, Leader of the Council.
Councillor Rob Wood, Children and Families.
Susie Horton, Education.
Jeanette Smith, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Darren Sanders, Cabinet Member for Housing.
Dave Ashmore, Cabinet Member for Environment and Climate Change.
Matthew Willington, Cabinet Member for Health, Wellbeing and Social Care.
Lee Hunt, Cabinet Member for Community Safety.
Fiona, do you want to say who you are?
I'm Fiona Callingham.
Okay, and we're not joined by any other councillors or members of the public so far for this meeting. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've only got 3 items on the agenda, and I want to do appointments to outside bodies at the end, if that's all right. So let's just run through the rest of the agenda. So apologies for absence. Apologies from Lynn Stagg, who is on holiday. Any other appointment? Apologies? Joe? Christopher, do you have David Williams' apologies?
I don't.
Okay, do you want to...
I'd apologise on his behalf.
For anything in particular or for everything? Okay, any other apologies that people know about? No? Okay. Declarations of interest, colleague? Any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting on the 25th of March. Colleagues, are you happy with the minutes of the previous meeting?
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, let's then move on to representation to the Minister of Children in terms of getting funding into children's social care. So my understanding of this is there's been an offer from the government to councils to put money into improving children's social care for places that have got too many children in care, which we would qualify for, except they're only targeting the money at those councils where Ofsted have given them a poor score. Because Ofsted have defined Portsmouth Children's Social Care as being good, we're not eligible to apply for the money, which seems nuts. So I thought it was worth us writing to the Minister to say we think this is nuts, and actually if you're serious about reducing the number of kids in care and improving children's social care, we should be able to access that fund as well. Rob.
Leader, I agree with you, and I'm very grateful that you've written, because I find it totally frustrating and disappointing that the government have made 84 million available to just 20 councils, and we worked very hard under tremendous pressure in our budget to go from requires improvement to good very recently, but we need to sustain this, and the government have failed to understand that we need that investment just as much as other councils. So I hope the government will change their minds, and I'm grateful for your letter.
Okay. Susie.
Thank you also to you, Leader, for sending the letter. As you said in the letter, I was actually at the visit that Nadeem Zahawi came down to Portsmouth to look at, particularly inclusion in schools, and I think he was genuinely impressed and actually used the evidence that he'd collected back in Parliament to sort of feed forward to some potential work that's going on. But there's a couple of points I want to make. One is the fact that this is about relationships, and actually having that opportunity to build those relationships, which takes it into education as well as into families. Those two things are inextricably linked. And also, just to reinforce the point that Councillor Wood made, that actually we should be rewarded for good work, just as we say that kids should be rewarded for good work, and not punished in a way by being left out just because we do a good job. And so I think there needs to be a message that goes back about investing in preventative measures rather than just, albeit understandable, putting the money where things have actually gone wrong. So thank you very much for writing.
Okay, colleagues, are you happy with that? It's really just for noting. Oh, sorry, Matthew.
Yeah, I'd just like to just add, together with Rob and Susie, just coming from the public health point of view, the work that's been done, especially with families with alcohol-dependent parents, that's been done, and the funding we've had for that, and the programmes we're doing there, it really does go across the council, the work that's being done, and I think it's a real shame that we haven't got the opportunity currently, because of this stricture, to build on the work we're doing across the council, which is really working with, at the very least, something like that between children, families, education and public health, to be able to really make those really innovative things we're doing stick. So, so thank you very much, Leader, for your letter.
Okay, colleagues, are you happy to send this on? Thank you very much indeed. Okay, next thing, Sim, welcome. Do you want to just run us through where we're up to with this issue of water quality and planning decisions?
Obviously you've got the report in front of you relating to this. Very quick overview. There's an issue at the moment. There's been an identified problem of nitrates in the Solent. And we've got some advice from Natural England that says that the position is that there's a degree of uncertainty as to whether or not where that's coming from, and have advised that all development which is likely to generate an overnight stay, that's residential, some hotels and things like change of use to houses of multiple occupation, and including permitted development, where there's likely to be an increase, then we should be undertaking appropriate assessment, and that all development should be nitrate neutral, because there's a degree of uncertainty about that. Obviously at this moment in time there isn't a mitigation strategy in place. One's being worked up through PUSH, and we're also looking at various different options in terms of a whole range of short to long-term measures with PUSH, and also as an authority working in conjunction with Natural England to come up with solutions to allow us to actually start issuing decisions. Because of the lack of any agreed mitigation strategy at this moment, the legal advice we received from Queen's councillors is that we're not in a position to issue any decisions for developments which have an overnight stay until we can come up with solutions, and why we're looking at very short term as well as medium to long term solutions. There are some implications to us in terms of issuing decisions, but also income from SIL, and obviously various other issues identified within the report. The recommendation which is identified at 2.1, what we're looking to do is come up with a range of proposed mitigations as identified in paragraph 3.9 and supported by from 3.10 to 3.13 in terms of moving forward to develop up strategies to overcome these issues.
Okay, Sim, thank you very much indeed. I think this is quite a bizarre thing that we have one bit of government that is telling all the councils in the Solent area, no, you can't give planning permission for anything, and another bit of government which has housing delivery targets, and where councils are criticised for not giving enough planning permissions, and it seems deeply bizarre. Have we, I talked yesterday to both the chair of the LGA and to the chief executive of the LGA, and they're happy to take this up for us, but I think we need to write to both them and also the two Secretary of States concerned to say this is an impossible situation where you have two different bits of government telling the council to do two completely contradictory things, and which of them do they want us to listen to?
Under 3.11 under 3.11a, we're actually within the report we're actually proposing to, as part of the strategy, actually lobby central government in terms of clarification onto some of these issues. For clarification, Natural England are basically not saying that we can't. What they're saying is that you have to do an appropriate assessment, and as an appropriate authority, effectively that's meaning that we can't. So it's it's they're outlining the provisions.
However you dress it up, if they're saying you've got to do an appropriate assessment, but that assessment can only produce the result that you can't have anything with any extra loos in, by nature it means that you can't do any development. However they try to dress it up, and a little honesty would be helpful. Mr. Pitt.
Thank you, Leader. Ironically, there's a direct comparison here to the fact that a number of local residents wrote to the government saying, oh no, we don't set housing targets for local authorities, we just give them a formula and they produce their own figure. But the definition of the formula is that it only gives you one figure. It's complete nonsense and yet another disconnect. I just wanted to refer briefly to the fact the Council did pass a climate emergency motion very recently, and it's why, although other members of the Council had been advocating in the media around ignoring this and just ploughing on regardless, we have a responsibility for the wider environment of the city, and we also have a responsibility for future generations and making sure that we don't do permanent damage to our environment. So therefore, the approach that we've taken is very much around making sure that we are developing a strategy as fast as possible to show that we can actually get development moving again, but also address the issue of the eutrophication in the Solent, and to do just plough ahead without addressing the environmental issue would, in my view, be entirely irresponsible, especially in view of the Queen's Counsel advice that we've had that we could leave ourselves open to legal challenge and judicial review over it, which could also in turn jeopardise any planning decisions that had been granted on that basis, and potentially mislead developers into thinking that they were fine to go ahead and then find themselves in a pickle a little bit later on. So we think we're doing the right thing in terms of a twin track approach, which is to try and get ourselves into a position to be able to move forward with developments as fast as possible, but also addressing the environmental concerns.
Okay, Mr. Ashmore. That's all right. Or Darren first, whichever you prefer. I have no view and don't mind. Okay, in which case let's go to Matthew then.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll go after these two.
You can tell we're Lib Dems, can't you? No, I was going to say, basically reiterate what Councillor Pitts just said. We've declared the climate emergency, and now we've had water quality in the news, we've had air quality in the news. I think this is something where we can actually take stock and say, we need a modal shift in how we go about things. This is going to have to change. How we've been doing things just isn't working. It's endangering places. So I don't think just ignoring the advice and going ahead, it will just produce either the same result or worse. We need to be looking to be the best around here. So I think this is something for all local authorities really to sit up and say, how can we change things all across the board?
David, would you like to translate for people modal shift into English?
How we do things across the board, like strategy.
No, it's about trying to get people's understanding
attitudes
out of cars and onto bikes and onto their feet.
That would be for air quality, yes.
All right,
but for water quality, I don't know. It might help with that as well. But I applaud the leader for agreeing with me that cycling and getting out of cars is going to help as well.
Of course it will. Daz.
I just have visions of extra toilet seats on bikes and stuff and being flushed. But anyway, I talked to a whole raft of landlords last night, trying to explain to them the situation regarding homelessness in the city. And this came up, and their view was pretty much as Steve has outlined the view of some other politicians, which is, stuff it for a game of soldiers, let's go on and develop and let the council take the risks later. I think that's a bad idea, not least because we've got this and another housing problem, which is housing targets that are too high for what the city can theoretically cope with, which means that our local plan is put into abeyance, which means we have to rely on something called sustainable development, which in the middle of a climate emergency and air pollution crisis plus this means nothing's going to happen anyway. So I think that it's a very sensible approach actually to take stock and do something across the whole region. I understand this affects Havant and Fareham as well as Portsmouth. I would suggest, my understanding is that farming land is the chief cause of all this. If you actually build something on farming land, it'll help. Unfortunately, we've got no farming land in Portsmouth, which is a bit of a problem. But I would welcome the idea of a regional approach, taking on board what other authorities such as Poole have done as well. I would have 2 points, Gerald, if I may, just as clarification. The first is I understand that there's a meeting of the Planning Committee coming up very, very soon, although that's going to be interesting if we can't pass anything. And I would hope that an updated version, the latest information of wherever we are with this will be presented to them. The second is that in your second recommendation, Sim, you talk about endorsing the actions and mitigations proposed in what you call section 3.9. That is a paragraph which just says we need to do stuff, as opposed to doing stuff. So can I make an alteration, please, Gerald, which is that we endorse the actions in mitigations proposed in paragraphs 3.9 to 3.13, which do include stuff that we're going to do, and then that means we can actually get it done properly, copper-bottomed and all that sort of other jargon to make sure we can go ahead. But I would suggest an update for the Planning Committee in a couple of weeks' time.
I think it's next week, and I think it's already happening. It's already on the agenda, and it will be happening. And Mr. Mason is looking for a sub to be on that committee. Matthew.
Thank you, Gerald. I think there's coming at this from two angles really. One is the obvious public health angle. I mean, yes, we were talking about in jest about swimming and whatever, but obviously we do have that issue that if we've got nitrate-filled waters, that is not going to be good for people swimming in. I don't think we're at dangerous levels in terms of that, but we have to address this problem, and it does affect our environment as a whole. So I think it's absolutely clear that if Natural England say this is a problem, it is a problem. But the other side of it, and this is why I think it is quite frankly irresponsible for anyone to say, oh, just ignore it, just carry on. Not least for the financial penalty that we would almost certainly incur from government via Natural England. And it is a nonsense, as Councillor Peters said, that you have two different bits of government who don't seem to talk together, but, that's government for you. But it's the water quality issue as it comes with our fisheries. I'm the Council's representative on the Southern Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authority, and if we don't sort out this issue and get a mitigation in place, working with Southern Water and all the other councils in the area and farmers and all that kind of thing, we are going to have situations whereby our already very fragile, often protected ecosystems in our waters is going to make any kind of aquaculture and fishing unsustainable, and we won't be able to do it. So we absolutely have to sort this out. We have to work with our authorities to do so, and simply sitting down and ignoring this issue and saying, oh, just carry on anyway, isn't going to help. So I'm really encouraged by this report, and thank you very much for bringing it. We know it's an issue that all councils in the area are committed to do, working together, but we have to do what's right for everything, and it's not just about, we can't just look at it in terms of, oh, it's stopping us from building homes. It's a serious issue in its own right, and we really have to get this right and work together to sort this out.
Okay, so I understand that the reason for this is it's runoff from fertiliser being put on the fields by farmers, and some of it is absorbed, and that's fine. But when they put it on incorrectly or too much, there's runoff, and that's the issue. Which, of course, it would seem to me the logical thing to do would be to stop farmers doing that, because that then might sort the problem out. But I don't think Natural England have got there. But anyway, colleagues, you happy with that report? Thank you. Okay, let's go to outside bodies. Does everybody have a large sheet? And I think Fiona might want one at the back. She doesn't appear to have one. Thanks, Joe. No, we need to go through one at a time. We do. Okay. colleagues, I'm only going to do the ones where there are more nominations than there are places to fill. We've received nominations from the Lib Dems, from Labour and from Independents. We've received no nominations from from the Conservative group. So there may be places where we traditionally have had Conservatives. There's one, it's in the third one down, which we put in because we know he's the spokesman. To be consistent, we should probably take that out because it was, but that's the only one, and that came from us because it says in the sides in the Education Advisory Board, Cabinet Member for Education, spokesmen, and Chair of Education and Children and Young People Scrutiny Panel. So we have put Terry Norton in as the spokesperson because we know he is.
Have they explained to you why they put no nominations forward? They're not interested in?
I have no idea.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, so the first one we have is at the bottom of the first page where we have 3 people going for 2 spaces, which is the Buckland Community Association, where we've got Cal Corkery, Jason Vasackley and Leo Madden, and I'm happy to propose. So I'm starting on children and families, and at the bottom of that page, it says Buckland Community Association. Has everybody found Buckland Community Association? On the right-hand side of that, there are 3 names competing for 2 spaces, who are Cal Corkery, Jason Vasackley and Leo Madden. My proposal would be to keep the existing people on, who are Jason and Leo. Colleagues, are you happy with that? Okay, turning over. I've then got at the top of my next page, City of Portsmouth Sports Council. Is everyone in the right space? There again, there are 3 nominations, but there's only 1 person in. But we don't know. We don't know because there's no nomination in from the Conservative group, so we can't. At the bottom, ladies and gentlemen, we have another competition for a single space, and that is between Cal Corkery and Claire Udy for the Lamport Community Association. I'd suggest Claire Udy to do that, to local ward councillor. Are you happy with that, or any other nomination? No, happy with that? Thank you. Okay, turning over, and I hope I'm in the right place. I've now got Maritime Archaeology Trust, formerly known as. We have no nomination for the Peter Ashley Activity Centre, but everything else is the right numbers. Happy with that? Okay. Now then, I have to turn over, but I'm not entirely clear which way. Stacey Centre. Stacey Centre. Ladies and gentlemen, again at the bottom of the page, Project Integris Strategic Board, we're asked for 1 person to be on it and 1 person to be the deputy. Joe, is it normally the cabinet member who's on this, or is it not?
It wasn't last year, it was Councillor Tompkins last year.
I can't hear, I'm sorry.
So it was Councillor Tompkins who was on it last year, as on the paperwork.
Just using the microphone.
Okay, so we have 2 people, Dave Ashmore or Graham Heaney.
That can be a deputy.
Yep. So do you want to lead on it and Graham be your deputy, or the other way around, David?
Well, as it's integral to the waste strategy, I'd like to be the lead on it.
Okay, so Dave Ashmore lead and Graham Heaney as deputy. Now, turning over, and I've done that one. So we're now on Solent Sea Rescue, for which there is no nomination. Then there are 3 nominations for 2 spaces on Portsmouth Disability. Solent Sea Rescue at the top of the page.
If it's helpful and I can do it, would you like me to do it?
Yep.
Okay.
Lee Hunt. Lee Hunt to do Solent Sea Rescue. Okay, Portsmouth Disability Forum. We have 2 vacancies and we have 3 nominations. Cal Corkery, Jeanette Smith, Susie Horton. Jeanette?
I'll withdraw my name because I'm already on it anyway in another capacity, so I think it'll be really good for Cal Corkery and Susie to do it.
Yep, so Cal and Susie to do that. Okay, I think we then come down to the Fratton Big Local, and last year it was Dave Ashmore as the full member and Tom Coles as the deputy. We have both of them nominated. Do you want to carry on that system? Okay. Darren, you're easy, I see, at the bottom of the page. Thank you. We then have to turn over, and I've probably gone to the wrong bit.
It's easy again.
Okay, Rob, you're also easy. Excellent. The Port Advisory Board, we have 6 places and there are 4 nominations, so if we accept those 4, I'm trying to look to see if there is, would anybody like, that we have a vacancy on Sigoma. Would anybody like to do Sigoma? It meets in Barnsley. So Chris Ward, was that a yes?
Can we send an officer, Joe, since he laughed? Yeah, find out.
Because Chris might enjoy it, because you like the Sigoma financial stuff, don't you? The briefings they do. Okay. Then we haven't got anybody for the William Shepherd Charity, Elizabeth May Claypit Charity, or the Hampshire Buildings Preservation. It's the church wardens, etc. Okay. Hampshire Buildings Preservation Trust annual meeting. Nobody asked to do it last year, nor this. Minerals Waste and Development Framework. Now, I'm sure this is Councillor Pitt who should be doing this instead of me.
We could poll the cabinet leader if you wanted to.
I think that was you, Joe.
Shocking. Calumny. All right. Patch. We have 3 nominations. I thought, well, no, it's up to 3, but I'm worried that Tom Wood has dropped off it.
He's actually an elected
Director. Okay, so he's directly elected.
director.
So we could have the 3 names put there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do that then. Anything else? So European twinning, we only have 2 people who want to be on that committee.
Leader, did we ask Councillor Udy, because she attended all of the meetings last year, so I'd be surprised if she didn't want to continue.
So
Did we make a note to ask her, Joe?
Okay. And I think the Lord Mayor is there anyway. Okay, the HIFA one, we have 4 places for 5 people, so that's fine. South East Employers, it was Jim Fleming with Stephen Morgan as, and Stephen Morgan. So we've got potential to have 2 people plus 2 deputies. So should we put both Darren and Steve on? Okay.
Nothing's changed.
Oh, it's 1 plus 1. Beg your pardon.
So we said Darren.
So Darren and then Stephen would be deputy. If that's okay, colleagues. And then I think, if I'm right, we're on the last page. No. Yes. I got the. So then I think the Transport Liaison Group, there are only 2 nominees for 4 places, but fine. We haven't got nominations. We can't put people on. But we need nominations. Okay, colleagues, with those, are you happy with that full list? Matthew.
Yeah, just on that, I think this might be and I don't know if it was the case on any others, but it's just on the Transport Liaison Group, because obviously it's 4 ex officio, but I think that's when we used to have 4 groups, and we've only got 3 now, so perhaps that should only be 3 ex officio, just to be
Yeah.
Just to be clear, and just in case if there's any others, we just need to be clear on that as well.
All right. Okay, colleagues. Are you happy with that, colleagues? At which point, that is it. Thank you very much.
Before you finish, seeing this is a public forum, I just want to express our thanks for D-Day.
Indeed.
And all the work that the staff did in various forms across the council, and they made it a most momentous day, and I think they earn a lot of praise for that. So thank you.
I completely agree. I walked back home after it, and so bumping into people on the seafront who hadn't been at the event because they couldn't get in, but had watched on television, all of whom said how incredibly good a event it was, and who were full of praise for the council. So, so it was really excellent work from the events team, and we've got to think of what to do to say thank you to them and recognise what their extraordinary work. Lee, and Steve first, because your portfolio holder, then we'll go to Lee.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, for raising that. So on behalf of the city, I'd like to thank the police, the fire, the ambulance, and all the other outside bodies that supported us. I spoke to police officers from, the Headley police officers from Wales, and police officers from up north, as far as Manchester as well. So it was indeed a massive operation. It went smoothly, and it was fun, and of course we had the days either side as well. So a tremendous event for the city. Thank you.
Good.
Just very quickly, Leader, I know various emails have been going backwards and forwards from members of the public and council officers thanking the various people who contributed so much to making the D-Day event happen. As an unusual request, could we make sure that we, as an administration, write to all those people with yourself as the main signatory, but make it very clear that it's on behalf of every single member of the Cabinet, because different people from all across most of our portfolios have contributed in some way, and rather than it being piecemeal, if you could write with all of us undersigned, that would be very good. Thank you.
And Jeanette, thank you very much indeed for bringing this up. Absolutely right. Okay, thank you very much. That is it, ladies and gentlemen.